Let's have an adventure, shall we? Hello my friends and welcome to the video. Today, only 1 week late, I am putting out my contribution to August's Art Addicts Alliance theme. One of our themes this month was map, and this seemed like a good way to just get back into the swing of things for me because a map like this is a pretty straightforward thing for me. I've done this a bunch of times. It's kind of just a fun, relaxing way to pass the time is to just throw a map together. And this one had some fun elements to it. So the first thing you want to do for a map, give yourself a coastline. Do something interesting with it, right? You don't want a boring map. You want little crinkly bits, you want bays, you want gulfs, you want as much cool stuff to interact with as possible. So you get that there, then you figure out how you want your mountains. For this one, I'm going to do a mid-continental range, similar to the Rockies, and I'm going to do a range like the Alps, where a subcontinent has kind of butted up against a larger continent and become a peninsula with a large mountain range dividing it. From there, throw in some rivers. Rivers are pretty easy. The big thing to know about rivers, and this is not intuitive, right? So this is something you've kind of got to unlearn from how it's really easy to draw maps as a kid. As a kid, at least for me, it was super easy to think of rivers backwards. I would draw them, and then I would have them split 100 times before they reached the ocean. And real rivers work opposite that. You want to have it go from the ocean back towards the mountains, where the headwaters are, and break it off every time. Now, of course, that's just how you draw the river. The river does flow from the mountains to the ocean, but it meets as it goes towards the ocean, right? So you'll get 20 rivers that all meet together into one big river before they reach the ocean. You won't have one river leave the mountains and then split into 20 little rivers before it hits the ocean, right? So it runs opposite of what, at least for me, was the way it made sense to draw rivers as a kid. And if you do that, you end up with these very natural rivers. This is what a real river is going to look like. Now, from there, the next step is to start naming things. And really, you just kind of want to string some consonants together, put vowels in the middle, and just keep iterating that through your head until you get stuff that sounds right. One other trick, and this is something you'll notice I'm doing this time, is if you kind of go in alphabetical order but jump around the map, it doesn't seem like you named things in alphabetical order, but you've got a bunch of places that all start with a different letter, which is just a really, really simple way to make sure all of your place names are distinct from one another, right? So it's a lot easier to remember that we have Actaa, Gulbre, Quareth, Mordui. We have all these different place names as opposed to, let's just give some weird examples. Let's say that I made a map and all of the place names were Maldarth, Malvareth, Maldarzon, Manon, Marvel, Malav. Like, you really just start to make it hard to keep one place straight from another, whereas if you kind of run through the alphabet, you'll have a little bit better time. So I find it easy also to name regions as well as cities, right? So up in the north, we have the Dvorak Hinterlands. Over in the west, we have the Talsin Steppe, which gives way into the Buruk Desert. Down south, we have the Naresh Coast. Kind of in the middle, in this continental valley, we have the Ilushaya Valley. Depending on scale, that might get renamed to the Ilushaya Plains. Really, if you can stand at one mountain range and not see the other, most map makers, or at least people naming the big physical features, don't tend to think of that as a valley, even if it has a lot of the other elements of one. And this very much is a large river valley, if you look at where the river falls here. And then finally, over in the far east of this map, we have the Folman Peninsula. Now, I kind of went with vaguely Middle Eastern-y names near the Buruk Desert and throughout the Talsin Steppe. I went with not quite Mediterranean European names throughout the Ilushaya Valley and kind of interspersing along the Naresh coast. No real settlements in the Dvorak Hinterlands. That really, to me, felt more like a nomadic area. Like, the people who live there live a nomadic lifestyle and are kind of what the city dwellers consider on the fringes of civilization. And then any names I came up with that seemed maybe a little bit silly ended up moving to the Fulman Peninsula just to kind of give it that sense of, yes, they do very strange things out on the peninsula, right? You give that excuse for there to be a little bit of shade thrown by the people in other parts of the world who don't live that way. All of this together, I really feel like, so first thing I did was I made several places that are big on trade routes, right? So Akta'a, Korthai, Svalbard, Orloth, and Vindeli form the major trade route along the Naresh coast, and then up in the Ilushaya Valley, Kalesh is a major center of trade, just being a really good location for a lot of people in these cities and even smaller settlements to come to for trade. Mordui could be more of a trade post if I really needed it to be, but I really didn't have a strong sense of what that place was going to look like. I'd say Vindeli and Yazin probably have a reputation for being basically too much like the Fulmans, right? The people of the peninsula are weird, and a little bit of that has rubbed off on Yazin and Vindeli. Think the way that the hobbits think about Outlanders and apply a little bit of that to the Bucklanders, right? It's just, you're kind of one of us, but you've got some strange foreign ways. As far as other real strong flavors for these cities, Akta'a was the next one that really had a strong flavor in my mind. It's on the edge of the desert, which has toughened its people. It has this massive protected bay from which it can just operate this trade empire. At the same time, it really hasn't gone imperial, and I think the biggest reason for that is just that's not the direction their society took, at least not conquest imperial. They really took over the world's banking, right? So now we have this major city of trade, right? Well defended, huge place, lots of walls, lots of good infrastructure, and it handles all of the world's banking. I think a great starter adventure if I ran this world in an RPG would be a bank heist in Akta'a. I think that'd be fantastic, right? Big cosmopolitan port city, and you're robbing a bank while you're there? Perfect, that's exactly how this should go. The other big city of trade, I think, would be Kalesh, but that is much less densely packed walled city and much more big sprawling city, right? Think the density of New York versus the density of Denver. Yeah, so Kalesh is real spread out, big population, real spread out, real decentralized. And that gives that town a whole different flavor as well. So with all of that combined, here we have a world ready to explore. I wonder if I ever will. I've got so many tabletop projects that are just, maybe I'll do that one day. Maybe I'll do this one day. Maybe I'll do this one day. And it's getting away from me. I'm having ideas faster than I can do anything with them sometimes. And that's just what it is. But in the meantime, thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little something about putting together maps for your own games and stories and whatever else you got that you're working on. And please do check out the rest of the Alliance. Like I said, this video is about a week late, so there should be plenty of videos out for you to watch on August's themes. I hope you enjoy them. I'll have links in the description so you can go and check those out. I hope you do so. I will see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Please share the video with a friend or several friends, and let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see me draw in a future video. Later, y'all!